Our daf for today is Kuf Yud Beis, and we're looking at the top of the Amud. We learned in the Mishnah that if Yevamot claims within the first 30 days, lo nivalti, and therefore the Yibum was not consummated, she wants now an opportunity to get married, so she's demanding from the Yavam to give a chalitza. The Gemara wants to know, okay, fine, the Mishnah says that within 30 days, we believe her claim he did not have beer with her. Why do we force him to give a chalitza? Nichpenu liyabim. What's wrong with Yibum? If the Yavam wants to be miyabim, why do we force him for chalitza? And if he's not interested in Yibum, why don't we force him to do Yibum? Like any other mitzvah, we have a principle called kofin ala mitzvahs. And we have a Mishnah in Bechoros that says mitzvahs Yibum kodemes lemitzvahs chalitza. Hamara b'shegita yotze mitachas yoda. The Yavam gave her a get, indicating obviously that he's not interested in Yibum. And now she wants to get married, which she cannot do. She's bound by the zikas Yibum. He wasn't boel her. And therefore, her only option to marry anyone else is chalitza. Therefore, we force him to give chalitza. The Gemara asks a question on Rav from a brisa. We're going to prove from this brisa that the Mishnah is forcing him to be choletz, even in event that he did not give her a get. And Rav had said that the only reason why we force him to give her chalitz is because he had already given her a get. Masechet, Yevamot sha'amru b'toch 30 yom lo nivalti. She claims that since he took her into his rishus, he did not have beer, and it's within 30 days, so she's believed. Bein shehu omer balti, bein shehu omer lo balti, kovno so shel. So he's not believed, even if he claims that he did have beer. Liachar 30 yom. After 30 days, she's not believed to say lo nivalti. Mevakshim emenu shiachlotzla. We're not going to force him to give chalitza. We'll encourage him to do so. It's his decision, because she was the one who made a claim that's not true. We rather believe his claim that he was boel her. Now, after 30 days, Iomeres Nivalti, she claims that she doesn't need chalitza because he did consummate the yibum. V'hu omer lo ba'alti, she's believed because we have a principle that ein adam mamid atzmo v'liv al yosem shloshim yom, and therefore raise a yotzi beget. Now again, if 30 days passed, v'hu omer ba'alti, he omers lo nivalti, so technically we do not believe her. We believe his claim that there was beer. And certainly if she had said nivalti, we believe her, and therefore she doesn't need chalitza. But if she says ba'alti, lo ba'alti, then afal pisha chazav yom lo ba'alti tzricha get for chalitza. She needs chalitza. Why? Because her claim is lo nivalti. And therefore, she is in the geder of shavya nafshi chaticha ditzur. According to her own admission, she cannot get married without chalitza because lo nivalti. And technically, we believe his claim, ba'alti, and he doesn't really have to get involved in chalitza, but we're hoping that he'll be compassionate enough to do chalitza because she cannot get married based on her own testimony and shavya nafshi chaticha disura. Now let's just try to analyze what the Gemara's Masechet is now. In this last din in the brisa, she needs a get. So it seems that he hasn't given her a get yet. Otherwise, why would it say she needs a get? And then you go back to the Reisha, and it's talking about a case where she didn't receive a get. So why b'toch shloshim yom, when she says lo nivalti, why do we force it to be choletz and not miyabim? Rabbi Ami, tzricha chalitza im gita. You have to rewrite the text of the brisa. It doesn't mean tzricha get vechalitza, but rather tzricha chalitza im gita. So in other words, she already had received the get. Not that she needs a get, but together with the get she already received, she needs chalitza. So the brisa is telling you that in addition to the get, which she already received, she needs chalitza. Now the Gemara offers another answer. Rav Ashi Omar, in the brisa, he already gave her a get. But there's a difference between the get that's mentioned in the last part of this brisa and the get that's mentioned in the first part of the brisa. Hasam, in the first part of the brisa, you're talking about a get lizikaso. Hacha, in the Seifa, we're talking about get libiaso. So again, in the Reisha, we're talking about a case where the Yevama has in her hands a get. And that get, once it was given to her as a Shomeres Yavam, excludes Yibum. So Yibum is out of the question. And your question as to why we don't force him to Yibum, we have an answer to that question. Because the get was lizikaso. And if the get was lizikaso, it undermines the zika and excludes Yibum. So whenever Yavam gives a get to one, whenever any of the Yavamim give a get to the Yavama, that passes her for Yibum. She still needs chalitza, of course. And since he, in this case, claims that he had beer with her after she received the get, which is probably illegal, but he did it, she needs to get to be mafkia this kinyan that he was kona through beer. So again, if we accept his claim that he had beer with her, and he also claims he had already delivered a get to her, she needs another get because of the beer that he had with her after she received her get. So let's interpret the brisa now in light of the answer of Rav Ashi. If 30 days passed since he took her into his rishus, and she's holding on to a get lizi kasa, he claims ba'alti, I had a beer with her after I gave her the get. She needs now a get libiaso. She, on the other hand, says lo nivalti. All I need is chalitza. In fact, if she has a get, then that excludes yibum, but nevertheless she still needs chalitza. So even though now he's claiming lo ba'alti, and therefore all she needs is chalitza, there's no need for a get, nevertheless she needs a get in addition to chalitza. Now the Gemara tells us the following. Hanu shneim modim. This is a Maisa, story that happened with the Yevama. She claimed lo nivala. The Yavam claimed ba'ala, ba'alti. And then later on, he rescinds his original claim and he concedes that he did not have beer with her. Also, the Rav. The case came in front of Rav. How could we be matir halashuk? Amalu Rava chalutzala, chalutzula. Make sure that he implements chalitza, charla tigra, and then you can send her out of bed. She'll be okay. Amalei Rav Masharja Rava, but what you just said, Rava, is against the brisa. Apparently, Rava didn't know about this brisa. The Sanya Trifa gets vichalitza. Right? All you said is chalitza, and that would be enough. No, that's not so. She needs a get as well. And that's based on the claim of the Yavam that he had beer with her. Even though later on he changed his tune, but his original claim is accepted. Amalei, so Rava said to Rav Sharvia, Tanya, what can I say? If there's such a brisa, then I have to rescind my original position. I didn't know about this brisa. Boy mine hon breder of Nachum Rav Nachum. So now we're talking about a Yavam who takes the Yavama into his rishus. Bezdin says to the tzara, you're a free agent to get married. And then after a certain period of time, the Yavama comes forward and claims lo nivala. He wasn't boil. He didn't consummate the evil. And certainly within the first 30-day period, she'd be believed. So Tzarasa Mao, since by her own admission, the Yavama needs chalitza because she claims lo nivala, what about the tzara? Is she asur l'shuk until the Yavam does chalitza? But again, this is all generated by the fact that she claims lo nivala, which is shavya nafshe chaticha disura. She, by her own confession, requires chalitza, but technically she doesn't need chalitza. We believe that she was nivala. Rav Nachman returns with an answer to his son, and he says, "V'nei shanu kofim umevakshim is teaser hatzara." There's no objective evidence or credibility to her claim that lo nivala. We have a chazaka that a person is kodes his yavama, he's boil biyad. And the reason why we force him or we request of him to give chalitza is because she put herself into hot water by claiming lo nivalti. So that's an issue that she took upon herself. She can't get married without chalitza, but that doesn't have any impact on the tzara. The Mishnah says, Hanoderes hana. She took upon herself an isur neder not to have any hana from the Yavama. And she took this neder even during the lifetime of her husband. And the Mishnah establishes kofin otso sheyachlotz. We're going to force the Yavam to be cholitz. Now, apparently, in this case, she's not guilty of preventing Yibum. We'll have to understand why. But if she took this vow, for example, after the death of her husband, then for sure she was deliberate, and we cannot force him to give chalitz. She's the one who put the blockage and made Yibum impossible. However, this Mishnah seems to indicate that just one second, that if she took the neder while her husband was still alive, then after the death of her husband, we're going to compel the Yavam to give chalitza. Tanan Hasam, we learned in Nidarim, Daf Tzadi of Beis, Barishon Hayom, Shalosh Noshim Yotzos, Benotlos Ksubos Ksuba. we're going to enumerate 3 scenarios in which we're going to force the Baal to divorce his wife, and she has rights to ksuba. The first of the 3 is an Eishes Kohen Homeres Tmea Ani Lecha, which means Nenasti. So we can no longer resume our marital relations. You have to give me a get. And since I was not responsible for this situation, it was an onus, therefore I don't lose my ksuba. Next case. A woman has a claim against her husband. In other words, it's clear and revealed to the one who sits up in the heavens that, here's the Hebrew translation, Eincha yachol lavo alai kiderech b'nei adam, that you don't have the capacity to have a relationship with me in a normal way. And therefore you have to divorce me. Now, keep in mind, we don't have any proof to support her claim that he is incapable of Yavo Lekaderch. He's not capable of that. And therefore, it could be, if we want to be very suspicious, that she's drumming up this whole story. Why? Because she wants to get out of the marriage. She may have fallen in love with somebody else. So in a sense, she's going to have to prove to us that she's not lying. And that's what I think is the next few words here in the Mishnah that the Gemara is quoting here from the Dor. Netula nibena Yehudin. She takes a neder prohibiting tashmish amita from any Jew whatsoever, not just from her husband. And apparently, why did she take such a neder? She is suffering from tashmish amita. It causes her tremendous pain. So she takes an iser, a neder, on all the Jews that she won't benefit from any of them. And this is proof positive that she doesn't want to marry somebody else, because if she marries someone else, she'll again be tied down and restricted by this neder. So we're going to believe that she's in a situation of circumstances that she can't control, that are due to her particular health situation. And therefore, we can force him to divorce her, and she doesn't lose her ksuba. However, the Mishnah records that the psak, the ruling in these 3 cases, was reversed. Azru Lomar, at the end, the Rabbanan disqualified any of those claims of hers. Today, Shete Isha no senes einea, Shalote Isha no senes einea bi acher umekalkeles al bail. In other words, if she knows that she has any of these 3 claims in her back pocket that will be accepted by the courts, then she might be tempted, lo aleinu, to try to force her husband to divorce her. And she'll receive a ksuba, and then she'll marry this guy that she wants to run away with. So in order to protect such a thing, such a situation from arising, we tell her, look, you're going to lose your ksuba. So that's chazru, lomar, etc., etc., and she has rights to ksuba. Elahomeres tmeani l'cha, tavi raya l'dvareha. If she claims she was raped and she's about, married to a Kohen, then she's not believed until she brings proof. Hashamayim veini leveincha. She's claiming again that who eno yochel lovu aleha kederech bnei adam. Yasu derech bakosh. Now he translates this as Yevaktu mi baila linog ima kederech kol bnei adam, based on Rashi. So I'm not exactly sure what the meaning of Yavakshu. Derech bakosh, Yavakshu mi baila. You have any notes on that by any chance? Yavakshu mi baila. Again, basically what it means is we don't believe her time. On the other hand, we want to show a little bit of compassion to what she's saying because maybe she's telling the truth. So we ask the Baal to do a better job, to try a little bit harder. Netula ani min haYehudim yefer chelka. The Baal could be made for his chelek, in other words, whatever relevant to him in this neder, u'mishamashta, and then he could have tashmish because he was made for his part of the neder. But tehei netula min haYehudim, the part of the neder that's not relevant to the Baal, but to the rest of the world, in case he dies or divorces her and now she wants to marry someone else, he does not have the authority, the power to be made for that part of the neder. Iboilahu, suffix in the Gemara, Netula nimin haYehudim la Yevamot. Gemara is going to claim that we have Machlokas Rav and Shmuel on this very question. She took a neder for enjoining herself from Hanoah, from anybody, min haYehudim, or any Jew. What about the Yavam? Right, we said before that her kavanah, the neder, is to prove to her husband that tashmish amit is kashala, v'lo shenosna eineo bi'achem. So me, maska adaite de ma'ispaila. Did it ever entertain thought cross her mind? She took the neder that her husband's going to die without children. She'll fall for yibum. And she went ahead and she asked herself on the whole world. So it could be that this is like a neder tos. And she never really intended to take a neder in such a way that would engender an Easter on the Yavam. So the Baal could be made for his chelik in the neder. The Yavam cannot be made for his chelik in the neder. And if we say that she took the neder, including everyone in the world, including the Yavam, meaning she didn't exclude the Yavam. So that neder is binding, and therefore, since no one could be made for that part of the neder, then from the Yavam, all she can hope for is chalitza. Oh, lo. She never even entertained the idea of falling for Yibum. And therefore, if you would have asked her, would she take such a neder b'makom mitzvah if she'll have a situation where she falls for Yibum for a mitzvah Yibum, she would say, I never would have taken the neder. Rav Amar Yavam Eno Kibal. In other words, the Baal has to be made for his chelik, but the Yavam doesn't even have to bother being made for his chelik in the neder. He's mutter b'lo hafara. He's allowed to have relations with her, even without being made for the neder, because she didn't really intend to include him in this neder, include the Yavam. Shmuel Amar Yavam Areu Kibal. Yavam has the same status as the Baal. And therefore, the Yavam is Asur ba. Rabbi Kavase, the Rav Mistab. I would like to support Rav's sheet over here that Yavam Eno Kibal. And that's what Rabbi is going to try to prove now from a Mishnah. And that's our Mishnah here. Disnan, we learned in our Mishnah, no deres, I know me Yevamot, b'chai baila, kofen oso sheyach. Now, the language kofen oso implies that she's not in any way guilty for blocking the Ibum. V'im Isa asks Abaye, if you're going to tell me like Shmuel, that she thought about the possibility of falling for Yibum, and she included this Iser Hana in an all the broader scope, even including the Yava, is then Mevakshim Mi Boile, we're on the top of Daf Kuf Yud Beis Amud Beis. Why do we force him if she had in mind, as Shmuel says it, to prohibit even the Yavam? She's the one who blocked the evil. So best you can ask him to do us a favor and out of the goodness of your heart to offer a chalitza. So it should have said Mevakshim. Therefore, this would prove Rab's Shita that she never had kavana to generate an Iser on for herself on the Yama. So she's not in any way guilty, and therefore kofanos. Now the Gemara is going to try to defend Shmuel. There's a case in which even Shmuel would agree that she never intended that this neder should prohibit her on the Yavam. And that's a case where she has children, and unfortunately, tragically, they died later on, and therefore she falls for Yibum. And in this case, even Shmuel would agree, Kofano so lachlots, because she was in no way guilty. She would never have intended to take this neder had she had the Ruach HaKodesh to know what's going to happen to the children. So the Gemara's Medaik Aval Ein Lo Bonim Mai. What's the din according to Shmuel in a case where she has no children and she took this Hana? Is Mevakshim? Are you going to say that in that case we cannot force the Yavam to be choletz? It's optional on his part because she was the one who should have foreseen that she would fall for Yibum. She has no children, and nevertheless she took the neder. And now the Gemara asks the following question: Adetani. In the Sefer, the Bryce, it says in this Kavna Lekach, if she had deliberate intention, is Afil B'chai Baila. Even if she took the neder while her husband was alive, we cannot be kofer the Yavam, is Mevakshim Gani Shiachlotzla. So why do we need that? Liflog v'lisnei b'didah. The Tana could have had that chiluk without stretching his arm out. But when do we say that kofin is a yomam lachlotz? B'sheyesh la banim, she has children. Aval ein la banim is mevakshim. So this is the famous principle called liflog v'lisnei b'didah. In a case of ein la banim, it should be mevakshim. You don't have to introduce the case of niskavna l'kaf. Forget about niskavna l'kaf. Just talk about a case of ein la banim. So just like niskavna l'kaf in the sefer exempts him from chalitza, so too a case where she has no children, therefore she anticipates that she very well might fall for yibum, and yet she took this neder. That's also like niskavna l'kach, and therefore we should apply the principle of ein kofinot solachos. What's the language? Mevakshim mimenu lachos. Elishma mina loshna yesh labanim, loshna in labanim kofinot so kirav. We're always going to force him to give a chalitza. And that's like Rav, who says that she never entertained the idea when she took the neder she'll fall for you. Shma mina, the Gemara accepts it. Hadran alecha, Perek Beit Shammai.